Hey, it's Scott Petrak with another episode of the Brown Zone Coverage Podcast. The Browns are coming off a crushing last-second loss to the Las Vegas Raiders and don't have much time to get over it before a Christmas game Saturday in Green Bay. The playoff hopes aren't extinguished, but they are flickering. Here to discuss everything with me, as always, it's Dave Chudowsky of Go, the WKYC Morning News. Merry Christmas, Chud.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you too, Scott. I hope you have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, everybody out there. And unfortunately, though, the gift of the Browns winning did not happen. That was a tough one, man. You were there, I was not. Sounded electric, though. It sounded like the fans, really brought it, and it just had that playoff type intensity. It was a lot of fun to watch. Definitely wasn't a boring game, and boy, they gave it their all. Got to give Mullins credit, but it's one they should not have let get away.
No, you're right. It did get loud in the fourth quarter, especially when they made that rally, took the lead. Greedy gets the interception, and you're thinking, oh, my gosh, they're going to pull this game out, right? And there's so many layers to this, as always. But can they overcome the COVID, right? 22 guys on the COVID list. You had 3 coaches out, including the head coach, Kevin Stefanski. And at the start of the game, and really throughout that first half, it looked like no. They're just overmatched. They don't have enough guys to do it. You're watching Derek Carr, throw to Hunter Renfrow, and they got Max Crosby and Yannick Ngakoue. They just have guys, and the Browns didn't have enough of their guys. But the Raiders made enough mistakes. The Browns hung in there, to their credit, and all of a sudden they're winning the game, and all they have to do is make a play, whether it's convert the 3rd and 3 and give you a first down, the game's over, get a stop to keep them from kicking that field goal at the end. And if you want to flash back to the end of half, is Chase McLaughlin make a field goal. Any of those plays changes the game, right? The McLaughlin miss, things change. You got a whole half to play, but you know what my point is. So they put themselves in a position, despite all the adversity, to win the game and can't get it done. And that's what's obviously super frustrating for the fans. It flashes you back to being unable to finish games in Kansas City against the Chargers, even Pittsburgh to some degree. They were leading going into the fourth quarter. And, we talk about margin for error. And they didn't give themselves any, right? By not living up to potential early in the year. And all of a sudden, you can't finish off a game in dire circumstances. And now your backs are really against the wall.
Yeah, great point there. And I want to dissect a few of those things you said before we get into that, though. I wanted to share this with you and get your opinion on it, because it really had me doing a lot of thinking. I sent a text to my buddy, and I just simply wrote, tough loss for Browns. I mean, I didn't have to say anything more. And he wrote back, might be toughest loss since Pittsburgh Northcutt playoff game.
Ooh.
And I had to sit there and think about that. First of all, that's sad for the state of the franchise. That's the case. But,
right.
I mean, really, when, I like when people make comments that really get me thinking, and boy, I mean, it's up there, right? I mean, it's sad but true. But that's there's other ones we could point out, but just because of the difference of going from first place to last place, the expectations that was put on this team. The Raiders are not a great team. I mean, they have the same record, but you just really felt like that was a game, even down and out, that you got to win.
Yeah. And, I don't have time in Christmas week to go back through all the brutal losses. But right. I did have that thought pop in my head, and where does it rank? And, Joe Bitonio's been through plenty of these, right? Came here in 2014, and he said this one ranks at the top. Mike Prefer talked about not having seen this kind of hurt in the locker room before or recently. You can think of really weird losses and difficult ones. They had that kick 6 against the Ravens on that Monday night, right? Browns are going to kick the winning field goal, gets blocked for a touchdown. But I don't think the Browns were in a playoff chase that year. At least didn't feel like this to me. Maybe they were hanging around the fringes. The Dwayne Rudd helmet and Bottlegate. Dwayne Rudd was the opener. Bottlegate, I don't think they were going to get to the playoffs. I mean, they might have been borderline that year too. It was Butch's first year, I think. and they finished 7-9. So I don't think they're going to the playoffs.
But those are all great points there and great memory bringing them all up. But those are all games that are weird and crazy endings.
Exactly.
Like Rudd, like the helmet. That was the first game of the year. I mean, like I think this is a different. This wasn't necessarily weird. It was more the emotions and we talked about that before. It's prime time under the lights, the significance of it, and I mean basically if they win that game, you're really feeling good about a possible playoff berth.
No, yeah, you're exactly right. That's what I was trying to get to is those games I don't think had the same repercussions from a playoff, just meaningful standpoint. And this one did, right? You go from first place in the AFC North, and the Browns, we talked about this 100 times. The Browns have never won the AFC North, to fourth place. You go from the fourth seed in the AFC playoffs, which you're hosting a playoff game, to 12th seed, and only 7 teams make the playoffs. Right, all because of you can't finish a game, right? And that's what happens this late in the season when you don't finish a game and you're on the bubble, all those things. So, yeah, I mean, it's up there, right? For sure, it is up there, and we're going to dissect it, just how it gets away, And yes, COVID played a part, but if you can handle the COVID issue for 57 minutes and 40 seconds, you should be able to handle it for the final 220. And it's just kind of emblematic of a season where the Browns haven't been able to finish, and they haven't been able to get that 1 or 2 wins that they really need to get them over the hump.
So let's talk about some of the things you brought up. Number one for me, and I just, gosh, did it just drive me nuts when McLaughlin missed that field goal? I mean, that just, and I understand that, the game played out the way it did because he missed it, but I'm sorry. I mean, that's the difference in the game to me. Their kicker came up big when the game was on the line, and ours did not when it was just the first half. I mean, you got to hit that field goal, and if you hit that, it does change the direction of the game. But I feel it changes it in the direction for a Browns win. Yeah,
no, there's no doubt, and it's not just the first time he's missed a kick, right? He's missed 5 of the last 11. He wasn't close on that kick, and it might have gotten long enough. From my seat in the press box, it looked like it was short. And then on replay, it looked like maybe it was long enough and just wide right. But I'll tell you this, he did not hit it well because he kicked the one and they froze it. So the one didn't count, and he nailed it. Like it was good by plenty. And then the other one looked like it took an hour to get close to the goalpost and was fluttering, and he just didn't hit it. And we've just seen too many misses from McLaughlin. Like I said, 5 out of the last, he's 5 for his last 11. Yet the Browns are going to stick with him. They must see something there that says if he can get through these struggles, he's a young kicker, that he can come out the other side. And we've seen it across the league, right? Guys get cut, guys struggle, and then they turn into Phil Dawson or Adam Vinatieri. The Browns must see something because they have another kicker on the practice squad that they see kick in practice too. So there must be a reason they're going to stick with Chase McLaughlin. But yeah, it's a huge play in the game. And now it's gotten to the point where I'm sure Kevin Stefanski, or Monday it was Mike Prefer, is hesitant to put him out there, right? If it's a 50-50 shot, you're going to go for it, or you're going to punt, whatever, because the trust factor isn't there. And that's a tough spot to be in when you're in the playoff chase, points at a premium, all that. So, yeah, that was a brutal kick, and you felt like that was a change of momentum. They get it. It's the end of the half, right before the half. They go and they're down 10-3. They got a little momentum, and then it felt like, oh, my gosh, the wind just goes out of the stadium. Now, the Browns did show some resilience they got a turnover that sparked them in the third quarter, but there's a huge miss. There's just no doubt about it, Chud, and it changes everything. And then their kicker, like you said, lines up and drills it into the tougher end of the stadium, going into the dog pound from 48 yards.
Yeah, of course, their kicker can't get ice, but ours does, right. and ours is the hometown kicker. It's so frustrating. It really is. And there's not much more you can really dissect on it. You hit it all right there, but it just, man, it's infuriating. And, so, all right, so that happens. So it felt like, following along on Twitter as you're watching the game, everyone's like, why not more Nick Chubb, right? And then you get more Chubb, you get the lead, And then at the end of the game, they go to Chubb on the most important play of the game, and it doesn't work out. So then now everyone's like, "Oh, they should have passed it." So
Yeah.
sort of through here. What's the truth behind all this?
Yeah, I don't think there's a clear-cut right or wrong thing there, Chud. And I've thought about this a bunch. And you're right. I mean, my text chains and Twitter feed, Twitter's evil to some degree, right? But it's full of give the ball to Chubb, give the ball to Chubb. He's your best player. And he by far was your best player when Nick Mullins was a quarterback. You don't have your left tackle. You don't have your right tackle. You don't have Jarvis Landry, right? I mean, Nick Chubb is your best player on offense Monday night. So you can make a strong argument if you're Alex Van Pelt, right? He's the guy calling the play. And if you're Mike Prefer, because he's the guy, who knows how much influence Mike Prefer has on that call. But to say, hey, we're going to give it to our best player. We are a run first team, right? We're paying our guards tons of money, right? We extended Nick Chubb. We're going to give him the ball. It makes sense. And you can go back. You don't have to go back far. You go back to that Lions game. Remember, Baker couldn't complete a pass, and they handed it off, the last 7 plays of the game, and got the first downs necessary to finish the game. So it's not like they've never run on third down before and gotten it. In fact, Baker ran to end the game against Pittsburgh last year that got him into the playoffs, right? They needed a conversion, and Baker ran it. So it's foolish to say everybody in the league would throw the ball there or you have to throw it in that situation. That's just not true. Now, the counterpoint is the Raiders know you're going to run. Now, Chubb had some success in the second half, but he didn't light it up. It wasn't like they were dominating on the ground. But you know that they're going to try to take it away. You don't have your starting offensive line intact because of COVID and injuries. Could you try some deception? Do you try a play action, maybe roll out, and you have a guy wide open for a first down? I understand that thought. And I do think there is some killer instinct involved in that. Hey, this is how we're going to win the game, right? This is our best play. We trust it more. But it's also, you got your third string quarterback in. Again, we talked about not having the starting offensive line where you have to protect your third string quarterback. So I don't think there is a automatic right answer here. What I'll tell you is that they didn't execute that play, and there were a bunch of reasons for it. J.C. Tretter got blown up by Jonathan Hankins. That started it going in the wrong direction. Andy Janovich, the fullback, I'm checking my notes here, Chud. Janovich, the fullback, gets beat by the linebacker, who's coming down the line. Janovich gets to him, and then the linebacker gets off the block. And then Michael Dunn, who's filling in for Batonio at left guard, can't get to the other linebacker on the second level. So those 3 guys made the play. And it's because the blocks weren't good enough. And, I don't know how much you blame on the coach there when you run this play a bunch, you need guys to execute, and it doesn't happen.
Well, and the other thing too is, you're taking, what was the situation there as far as clock? Did that take it down to 2 minutes? Because remember wasn't there?
It did.
Is it? Yeah, 2. Okay.
Yeah, the Raiders had used their last 2 timeouts. So if you throw it there, the danger is, and you're right, that is completely a factor. I got the play-by-play in front of me. I just want to check. So on 2nd and 8, they run it 5 yards. Raiders take a timeout. So there's 2:31 left. If you throw it there and it's incomplete, all of a sudden it's 2:25 left and you're kicking to the Raiders, right? So instead, you wind up going down the 2-minute warning. You kick it 150, or you kick at 2, and they get the ball back at 150.
Yeah, and there was a play, and I can't remember when it was in the first half or something that Mullins did, and I kept thinking, that was risky, or you're talking about a guy who hasn't, seen much action of late. What did he start 8 games last year or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
But the bottom line is, could you imagine if they pat? Right. And I'm not saying what they should have done there necessarily. I don't have a huge problem with it because, you're putting it in the hands of your best player. You would hope that he could get it done and that they could get it done. They didn't, right? But at the end of the day, they still punt and you still force Carr to beat you, which he did.
Yep.
But imagine the backlash if they pass on that play and it's intercepted, or you have a strip sack and fumble. then imagine what the reaction is going to be.
Well, no, you're 100% right. And, you can't coach like that. You can't, because half the people think you should do one thing, half the people think you do the other. But you're right. It's certainly right. If you put the ball in Nick Mullins' hands and say, go win the game for me, and he doesn't, that's way easier to second guess than handing it to Nick Chubb, your Pro Bowler. You're 100% right.
And that's what I'm doing here. I'm not necessarily talking about the coaches as much as the fan reaction, because that's what, we react to, right?
Yeah. So,
but you're right. So that you just hit it on the head. You can't make your decision based on, what the fans want you to do. I mean, they have a good feeling. Now, I will say this though, and I'm going to bring this up to you. And I don't know if I'm only going to go on, basically this was sent to me on Twitter. And did you see the rush direction data for the Browns?
I did not.
All right. So I wrote something. Let's see, what did I write? I just said on Twitter during the first half, everyone wanted more Chubb. We got more Chubb. They took the lead. After the game, many Browns fans wanted a pass on the final play when they went to Chubb and it failed. So, I was just pointing that out.
Sure.
So see, his name it's Nick Shepard. He retweeted something from Jake Burns. So I'm not going to take any credit on this, and I don't know if this is accurate, but I'm just going to tell you what it says here. His tweet was, "This was the main issue and a fair one. Brutal asking JC to reach a play side shade like that, especially Hankins." And then it says the run direction. It said when they went to the left, 10 carries for 63 yards. Middle runs, 9 carries for 31 yards. Right side runs, 4 carries for -3.
Well, that's interesting.
I don't know if that. I don't know if that's accurate, but
that's interesting. I mean, maybe you're trying to break tendency, right? If you've been going left all game, you think, okay, we're going to switch them up and go right. I mean, maybe JC was put in a tough position. He certainly did not win that one-on-one matchup. But it's 3 yards, right? The play before, there was no room to run for Chubb, and they went to the left. And he fights and fights and fights and falls forward for 5 yards, right? So you can get 3 yards. You don't need everything to go right. But like I laid out, 3 blocks went wrong, and maybe if one of those works out, Chubb can keep his feet going and he falls forward. Shoot, maybe he gets 4th and 1 and Prefer says, hey, we're going to go for it and end the game, right? I mean, that's obviously a huge hypothetical and you don't know, but you should, I guess the bottom line is you should be able to run it any which direction and get 3 yards with Nick Chubb. Now, I understand that doesn't always happen. We see plenty of runs stopped. But when the alternative is not Aaron Rodgers, right, throwing to Devontae Adams. That's not the alternative. So right. That's why I would cut Van Pelt slack. And I don't know, Stefanski would not say, and God bless him for it, he wouldn't say what he would have called there. Obviously, he's going to throw Van Pelt under the bus. But Stefanski might have been bold there. I mean, we've seen him throw the ball in the past. But again, it's not with your third-string quarterback. And, people act like, well, Mullins led this comeback. And he had 2 drives, right? Maybe 3 if you count the field goal missed. And he was played better in the second half. And he didn't turn the ball over. And he gave you everything you needed from a third-string quarterback in a tough spot. But again, do you want the ball in his hands or Nick Chubb's hands? And I would say Nick Chubb. Now, the counterpoint is, well, if you call the perfect play and the guy's wide open, then I would trust Mullins to make a 5-yard pass to a wide open David Njoku. But that has to be wide open too, right? There's no guarantee that this pass play is going to spring somebody wide open, right? There just isn't. So, you could, then say, well, then it's up to Mullins not to throw to, if it's not wide open, he can run and fall down and you're still going to punt. There's an argument to be said there, for a clock standpoint. But it's a failure to execute. And we're going to talk about the defense. It's the same thing there. I don't really blame the coaching. And I understand why fans are upset about it. Hey, if you throw it, we could win the game. But to me, this is not a terrible play call. It's just not.
Yeah. All right. You ready to move on?
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about this week now. And I mean, it's like.
Wait, real quick. Let me the defense, right? The defense had a chance. They're still up, right? Yeah. They're still winning the game. They needed to stop there. They got to stop the week before against the Ravens after the botched onside kick, right? They get him in 4th down. Denzel Ward makes the play. Joe Woods, people want to criticize him. I went back, right? They had 7 snaps in that last drive. He rushed 5 times, so they didn't blitz on 5 of the 7. The other 2, they sent 6, including the last play, right? He tried to bring pressure on that last play, and then Zay Jones just beat MJ Stewart, the 3rd-string nickel, on a crossing route. And Carr made a nice little rollout to the right, hit him, and they're able to spike it. There's a play where the tight end catches the ball in the flat. It should be a short gain. It should be a short gain. JOK took a funky, he comes over and kind of pauses. I think he doesn't want to knock him out of bounds. I think Denzel sees JOK coming, so he kind of pulls up. All of a sudden, the guy goes for 12 yards and gets out of bounds. And that was a play Stefanski focused on when we talked to him on Tuesday. We got to keep him in bounds. We got to make the tackle. And I don't know how much of that was guys not being in position, how much was this little awkwardness. It almost looked like a lack of effort, but I don't think that was it. I think they didn't want to force him out of bounds, but instead he still gets out and picks up yards. So that was poor execution. But and I'm not defending Joe Woods on everything he's done, although I think he needs more credit than he's been given. He got killed early in the year, and now the defense is playing much better, and he never gets any credit for that. But in this situation, we talk about Van Pelt not turning the game over to your 3rd-string quarterback. Clowney's out. Tack McKinley's out. Myles Garrett can barely move on his injured groin. You don't have Greg Newsome, Troy Hill, and John Johnson III, right? Right? And Ronnie Harrison and Grant Delpit. So you don't have either starting safety, you don't have your starting nickel, and you don't have your starting corner. So is the answer to blitz everybody and leave those guys one-on-one coverage in the back end with Richard LeCount, your center fielder, your last line of defense? I don't know. That doesn't sound like a great option to me. So, you needed somebody to make a play. You needed, one more play, really. That's all you need. Because if they don't get to the 30-yard line, it's a longer kick. Does he make it from 55? You just don't know. So they needed one more play, and they couldn't make it. And again, and this is not I don't always defend the coaches, but I'm not sure what the alternative there for Joe Woods is. He tried to blitz twice. It didn't work. He tried to play coverage. It didn't work. I saw somebody, I think it was a Ryan Clark film breakdown on ESPN. Richard LeCount took the bad angle on that lead, on the final completion, that he should have stepped up and made Carr go to somewhere else on that crossing route. But you got a rookie who never plays out there, and he's out there only for the last 11 snaps because John Johnson III got hurt. So it was a tough spot, and that's where maybe COVID caught up to him. But really, you just need one guy to make one play, and it's whether it was offense or defense. And that's why it's super frustrating if you're a fan, because that play just didn't happen. Didn't get made.
I got to believe that you had an article written after the interception that had the Browns winning the game, and that was the one play, right? I mean,
right. Right. You got the touchdown, and then you get the touchdown to Harrison Bryant on 4th down, and then you get the greedy pick. And Derek Carr, they must have seen something on film, and I expect Aaron Rodgers to do the same. They went after Greedy Williams deep time and time again, and they weren't really successful. And sometimes the guy was open, and there's it's a missed throw. It's that's low percentage plays. It's higher percentage probably when Aaron Rodgers is throwing it. Although Derek Carr throws a nice deep ball. But they attacked Greedy deep, and then he made him pay on that thing. You're like, all right, well, he made him pay. This is it, and they couldn't get the 1 first down. But yeah, I did have a story written. I had a couple different stories written. I did not have one for the Browns take the lead and then lose on the last-second field goal. I had to write that one spur of the moment, and I was a little bit worried to see how it turned out.
Oh, man, that was certainly a roller coaster. All right, are you ready to move on now?
I'm ready.
All right, good, because I'm done with that game. I'm ready to move on. So let's call this but I got to say, though, I am done with it. But boy, I hate the way it turned out. But boy, there was a lot to talk about, and it was an exciting game to watch. So, and from that standpoint, again, at least we have that to talk about. Then, 2 win seasons. So sure. there is that to think about, I guess. I know that doesn't help anyone right now, but All right, so I got 4 subjects here. Let's call them 4 quarters: first, second, third, fourth quarter. These are my 4 topics. What do you want to go with first? I think these are the 4 main things to hit right now: injuries, COVID, punting situation, and Myles Garrett kind of falls into that injury thing, but I think he's his own topic.
Yeah. Well, let's go in that order, Chud.
All right.
That's fine. So we'll go with injuries, and I'll leave Myles out. Kareem Hunt and Troy Hill, they're still on the COVID list, but they're also dealing with injuries. And Stefanski said they won't play Saturday. So, again, you're going into Green Bay without your top 2 nickels, going in without one of your best playmakers. Malik Jackson, he's been missing practice, but I expect him to play. David Njoku and Denzel Ward were added to the injury list. Is limited, although they didn't really practice. They just estimated them. I was told that it doesn't seem to be a big deal, so I would think they would play. The other one is John Johnson III, right? We talked about him leaving the game against the Raiders. Wouldn't have practiced the last 2 days. We'll be out in practice. We're taping this, I think today's Thursday. All the days run together. Thursday morning.
Oh, yeah.
Practice is later today. We'll see if he's out there. They need him, right? Hopefully they would get at least Grant Delpit back from the COVID list. Ronnie Harrison is not guaranteed to come back from when he went on the list. He would have to be asymptomatic, which he tweeted that he wasn't. So he'd have to get over COVID, be asymptomatic, and test negative. So you need one of those safeties back. I thought Javonte Moffitt actually played pretty well. He played a bunch at safety. But you need one of your top 3 guys to give you a chance back there. And the more the better, especially against Aaron Rodgers, right? I mean, can't stress that enough, how you deal with Aaron Rodgers. So that's the injury standpoint. John Johnson III and Myles Garrett are the key ones to keep an eye out for.
All right, let's go into COVID. I know you kind of talked a little bit about that, but and I have a feeling you'll probably learn more today after we tape this, but we do know that Stefanski's back.
Yep.
We do know that Hooper's back, and we also had some other guys go back on.
Yeah, Greg Newsome II, who still hadn't cleared concussion protocol, but he tweeted that he was close, went on the COVID list Wednesday. So, I think we can assume he'll be out Saturday. It's not a done deal, right? You can still, if you're asymptomatic, still test negative with the new protocols. But, I think it's probably safe to say he's going to be out. The key is you look at the guys that went on last week, and even if you don't test out of the protocol, it's a 10-day window, right? Assuming you're healthy, 10-day window, you can come back. We've seen that throughout the season. So that 10-day window puts guys who went on the list a week ago Tuesday. Jarvis Landry, Jedrick Wills, would have been Austin Hooper, but he came back yesterday. Those guys can come back by Friday, right? They clear the list Friday. They'd be able to travel with the team to Green Bay, assuming they're healthy and asymptomatic. So you're counting on Wills and Landry for sure, or not for sure, but you're counting on them. Stefanski is hoping that they would clear today and be able to practice, right? I mean, you want them out there. You want to see them on the field. Now it's been 2 weeks, right? Last week you said, yeah, we'll just play whoever comes back as long as they're healthy. Now it's, well, if they haven't practiced in 2 weeks, we haven't seen them in 2 weeks. It's kind of a case-by-case basis. You're obviously going to try to get these guys to play, but you have to treat them individually. Is this guy look like he's ready to play in the warm-ups before the game and the walkthrough on Friday, whatever it is, right? Whenever you can get your eyes on him. The guys who tested positive last Wednesday, if they don't test out, and that's Baker. Baker obviously is the biggest one from that list. He would come out of the protocol Saturday, and he said he's been asymptomatic. So we assume he's still asymptomatic. He can come back Saturday and would have to travel separately. Like the Browns could activate him Friday. He clears Saturday, can play Saturday afternoon. And Stefanski wouldn't commit to this. Maybe he will today. I assume you're going to start Baker Mayfield, right? Like I said, he didn't commit to that because, it's been 2 weeks. But I would think a Baker Mayfield after 2 weeks still gives you a better chance to win than Nick Mullins. And, I think it'd be somewhat of an indictment against Baker if they didn't feel the same way, right? So, I expect.
But when's the last time? So when would the last time he practiced would be?
The Friday before the Ravens game, so December 10th.
So think about that. You get him back, but I mean, like right now, he can't even be around the team, right? It's all virtual.
I mean, he's in the meetings, right? He's in the virtual meetings. So that's one of the beauties of being in virtual meetings is that everybody's in them. So he's there, he's engaged. I assume he's out working out at some, in his house or whatever, right? Running around Westlake, whatever. I assume he's doing, well, I don't know if he's running around Westlake with COVID. So wherever he's getting some kind of aerobic workout in. But yeah, I mean, it's not a no-brainer, I guess, to say, all of a sudden this quarterback's can come back and start. Aaron Rodgers did it when he came off the COVID list. I'm not trying to compare the two. I'm just saying there is some precedent for quarterbacks doing it. Now if Case Keenum had been practicing the whole time, maybe you go with Case Keenum. But he's also out on COVID. He's not guaranteed to come back because he went on the COVID list Thursday last week. So it's a rusty Baker Mayfield versus Nick Mullins. And I guess there is a decision to be made there. I would start Baker Mayfield. I expect the Browns to start Baker Mayfield, but it's not ideal, right? Ideally, he clears today and can practice, or he clears tomorrow and can go through some kind of walkthrough and throw the ball before the Browns get on a flight, right? I mean, that's ideal. And, you're looking at like Jacobs Phillips came off the list yesterday. Hooper came off the list yesterday. Grant Delpit, I believe, was it's Tuesday or Wednesday, so he should be back, assuming he's asymptomatic. But then there's guys that aren't guaranteed to come back, and it's the right tackle, James Hudson III, Ronnie Harrison, like I mentioned, the safety. I mean, there's still 19 guys on the list, so it's a long list, right? The linebackers, Mac Wilson Sr., Tony Fields II. So, the Browns Malik McDowell should be back, the D tackle, and they missed him. And they need him back against the Packers because they run the ball up the middle. We talk about Aaron Rodgers. The Packers run the ball up the middle a lot. At least the last two games that I watched, they did. And McDowell is probably the Browns' best run defender, interior. So they could use him back. Assuming he's asymptomatic, he will clear the protocols in time to play. So that would be a bonus. But there's still a lot of question marks. And even if you get guys back, like we said, Chud, it's off a long rest and with not a lot of practice. So it's still, it felt like last week was the worst COVID weekend it was. But it's not like the Browns are out of the clear.
No, not at all. So are we to assume that currently Baker is testing positive? Is that because if he tested negative, he would be out? We
know that. Yes, we know that.
Yeah. Okay. So there's what would stop him from coming? So if he continues to test positive, but you talk about the 10 days,
right?
So Saturday would be 10 days, but
exactly.
But what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything if he continues to test positive.
No, it does. Like that. I'm sure it's based on CDC guidelines, but if you hit your 10-day window, it doesn't matter if you continue to test positive or not. Like you're no longer contagious, right? I mean, that's the thinking behind it. Is that you can still test positive even if it's, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to screw up some medical thing here. Not like it's out of your system, but yeah, you're no longer contagious. Like the viral.
So if he tests positive, if he tests positive on Friday, he can still play as on set. He could come back no matter what. Then it's just a coach's decision as to whether he put.
As long as he feels fine, right?
As long as he's asymptomatic.
Yes, you can't come back if you're walking around sick. So I mean that's right. So that's the thing. The point is, if you're asymptomatic, they only make you stay on the list 10 days, right? Because there's people that just test positive forever, and they're not considered a danger to people. You know what I mean?
All right, I'm glad we cleared that up. Okay, because that is a little confusing.
Oh, it is. It is. And Stefanski kind of went through that the other day because he was the same way. If he hadn't tested negative yesterday and he'd continued to test positive, he would have come off the list Saturday, been able to coach, assuming he stayed asymptomatic, but he would have had to fly separately too. So like there's all kinds of contingencies plans that the team's having to deal with.
Oh, what a mess. Okay.
Yeah, and it's not, I think there was this belief that once the protocols changed to one negative test, right? Because it used to be two negative tests up until a week ago. It used to be two negative tests 24 hours apart. And now it's one negative test. And that makes it easier, but to test out, right? One as opposed to two, obviously. But it's not any guarantee. Like, guys still continue to test positive because they're carrying the viral load. You know, the COVID load is in them, and it doesn't necessarily dissipate or disappear in, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days. It depends on the person. We saw Wyatt Teller come back. We saw John Johnson III come back, but it was like a person here, person there, as opposed to this rush of players off the COVID list.
All right, let's talk about the punting situation quickly before we get to Miles.
Yeah, it's disappointing, right? Jamie Gillen is a fan favorite. I got some guy that texts me all the time. He loves the hammer. Easy to like, right? Fit in with the community. Big, out in Tremont, hanging out down there, helping out during the start of the pandemic, giving meals to people. But he just had a bad year, and he wasn't great last year. His rookie year is his best year. He was inconsistent throughout this season. We all know what happened in that opener against the Chiefs where he dropped the snap, panicked, and didn't kick it, and it leads to the easy go-ahead touchdown for the Chiefs. And who am I to say if he never recovered from that, because he had some good kicks after that. But the season just never got going for him. And, Dustin Cole quit. And so then Gillen gets COVID a couple of weeks ago. They have to bring in a punter. They bring in veteran Dustin Colquitt, and he's been fine. He hasn't been great, but the Browns obviously feel more comfortable with him going down the stretch, and it's not good for Gillen. And now he's going to have to go find another job. He's got a huge leg. We just didn't see it enough. You saw all this promise as a rookie, and it never materialized. So hopefully he lands somewhere else. I think he's a really likable guy. But it's interesting that they make the move at punter, and yet they stick with struggling kicker Chase McLaughlin, like we talked about.
Yeah, good point. All right, let's move on to Miles here, because regardless, it's not going to be Miles at 100%. Where are we at with him right now?
Yeah, wouldn't have practiced the last 2 days. They did the estimated practice injury report, and they only had a walkthrough on Wednesday. After the game, Miles said, "Hey, you're going to have to kill me or break my leg to keep me from playing." And I get that that's hyperbole, and it's after a game. And, he means that he's going to try to play. He's going to do everything he can to play. The MRI came back, obviously it's good enough that they just didn't shut him down for the season, but it's bad enough that Stefanski says, yeah, he's got a groin injury. We need to see if he can practice. We need to see if he's going to be able to play. So they don't know. I don't think he'll be ruled out today. I just don't think you want to do that with Myles Garrett. I think you want to give him every chance to show up Saturday and gut it out. There's only 3 games left in this regular season, right? You need to win. They could lose to Green Bay and still, figure out a way to backdoor into the AFC North, but it's not likely. So it's a big game Saturday in Green Bay, and you want your best players out there, and he wants to be out there. We've seen Myles show time and again that he's devoted to this team and dedicated and is doing everything he can to make this team a winner. So I think he'll try to play. It'll be interesting to see if he does anything in practice today. But like you said, even if he is out there, he's not going to be the same Myles Garrett, right? You just don't have the same explosion and burst and power when you have a groin injury. So that's tough again with this Aaron Rodgers matchup. I keep going back to it, and just let me throw the stat out for you. Aaron Rodgers has 30 touchdowns and 4 interceptions this year. That's mind-boggling. So you got to figure out ways to slow him down. If you don't have your best pass rusher, that hurts. Obviously, now maybe Myles can, sum it up or, suck it up for 5 huge plays and get pressure and help change the game. I don't think that's out of the question, but it's tough when you're not going to have a Myles Garrett at 100%. Then out on top of that, Takk McKinley, the number 3 end, is out for the year with the torn Achilles. And Jadeveon Clowney, your number 2 end, is on the COVID list and was symptomatic last week. So it's not out of the question he could play, but he would have to get better and test negative because he didn't go on the COVID list till Sunday to play. So you're likely going to have a less than 100% Myles Garrett, no Clowney, no McKinley, and a lot of Porter Gustin, Joe Jackson, and Ifeadi Odenigbo.
Well, now looking ahead, you couldn't ask for a worse situation. Besides maybe Tom Brady, and gosh, they're banged up with receivers, or Bill Belichick and having to figure out a way to beat New England. I mean, we could name a couple others. I think if if you had to pick one team and one quarterback, or at least top 2 or 3 quarterbacks that you do not want to face when you're in a must-win situation on Christmas Day, this is it.
Chud, you're exactly right. I'm glad. I like how you phrase that. And I obviously knew this was a really difficult matchup. I don't know if I conceptualized it like that it might be the toughest matchup for the Browns this week in Green Bay at Lambeau Field versus the Packers, who are 11-3, which I think is the best record in the league, in the entire league. I know they clinched the NFC North last week. Their quarterback's playing at an MVP level. It might be the toughest assignment for the Browns to have, and going in, needing a win or coming awfully close to needing a win. It's incredibly hard, and you're going to do it in less than ideal circumstances, right? Less than a full roster, guys just scrambling to get back, all of it, all the things we just talked about. The odds are stacked against the Browns, and Aaron Rodgers has been my favorite quarterback to watch forever. I just can't get enough of him. Makes everything look so easy. You play great coverage and he puts the ball exactly where you need to be. Like, it's hard to come. I've done it. I've figured out a way where the Browns might be able to sneak out a win here, but it's hard to do. Like, it's hard to conceptualize.
He became one of my favorites in 2011 when he led me to a fantasy bowl, and I'll never forget it. He ripped someone up on Christmas Day. I can't remember who it was, but it's like, I mean, he is so much fun to watch. He really is. And whether you like him or not, you have to enjoy watching him as an NFL quarterback.
Oh, you do. And, and he, I didn't agree with a lot of stuff he said this year with the whole misleading people with the immunization and the cancel culture garbage. But I still like watching him play. I really do. And, who knows? I mean, it's not – well, maybe it is crazy. He might win a Super Bowl with Green Bay this year and leave, right? Like, everything is pointing to him leaving Green Bay after this season. And, we're not going to talk about it now, but, is that a guy that the Browns try to go get? Would he even consider coming here? Like, that's a discussion for down the road, but it's going to be crazy that he could win another MVP, win a Super Bowl, and then be on the market. Like, there's that chance that happens.
That is, wow, I'm trying to wrap my head around that. That's a good point. Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of wrap my head around, and you said you're trying to figure out any which way before we get to predictions. Well, before we get to this question, anything else you want to break down? I'm simply just going to ask you, how do you beat the Packers?
Yeah.
Like, what would you, I mean, that's all I have left.
Yeah. I went back and watched the last 2 games, right? And they barely hung on to beat the Ravens, right? A lot of people watched that. It was on TV here on Sunday. Scored, I think they went 31-30. So they scored 31. Give up 30. A lot of that was Tyler Huntley running around. Their defense is pretty solid, the Packers, but hasn't played as well lately. There's a stretch in the middle of the season that the defense played really well. Then you watch the Bears game the week before. They played on Sunday night. And the Bears wound up scoring close to 30, but a lot of them special teams and big plays. Like, I think Green Bay scored 45 that game. So you figure out, you watch it and you say, how can the Browns win this game? And it starts with trying to just limit Aaron Rodgers, right? Which means I think you need to run it well and shorten the game. And kind of like when you play the Chiefs, right? You need to long possessions and then score touchdowns at the end of your possessions. Then try to make Aaron Rodgers or Pat Mahomes go 8, 9, 10, 11 plays instead of the big plays. Hopefully something happens. There's a penalty, there's a tip pass, something that allows you to get a stop, right? And then in the red zone, hold them to field goals instead of touchdowns because they're going to move the ball. I can't come up with a scenario where Aaron Rodgers doesn't move the ball up and down the field. Now, can you keep him to field goals and not touchdowns? Yes, that's realistic. And they're not a perfect team. And we saw Tampa Bay get shut out by the Saints the other night, right? With Tom Brady at quarterback. We saw Arizona with Kyler Murray going to Detroit and get beat. So crazy stuff happens in this league. It's just hard to predict that kind of crazy stuff. And all of a sudden Aaron Rodgers is going to not play well when he has first of all, he's got a chance to break Brett Favre's franchise touchdown record too. So he'll be excited for that. But when I come up with a scenario for the Browns to win, it's not letting them score as many touchdowns. So can you hold them to 27 points, right? That's a lot of points, but that seems like Green Bay is going to get there. You just can't let them get into the 30s and the 40s because you won't have any chance. Hold them to 27. That gives you a chance to win the game. And then you need, I think you need a big play touchdown. I go back to that Cincinnati game where you had the Nick Chubb long run. You had the DPJ long touchdown, right? You need something where you don't have to put together a drive. You just get one play, and that gives you 7 points. And then I think you need a fluky touchdown, whether that's a defensive touchdown, whether that's a special teams touchdown. And the Browns haven't come close to scoring a touchdown on special teams this year. But the Packers are bad on special teams. And they give up returns. They fumble balls out of bounds. Like I watched that Bears game. They were awful on special teams. So maybe you can block a punt. Maybe you can return one for a change. JoJo Natson came off the COVID list. Maybe he gives you your best chance, I think. You need an extra touchdown from special teams or defense. And all of a sudden we're at 14 points. And then all you have to do is score 14 more, right? You get the explosive touchdown. You get the funky touchdown. And then how do you get to 28 to win 28-27? Like that's, if I were Stefanski, that's what I'd be trying to come up with. And you can score 2 touchdowns on this defense, right? Just running the ball and Nick Chubb, and you got your tight ends back. You should have Jarvis Landry back. So that's the scenario. Like that's my blueprint is figure out a way to get to 28-27. Way easier said than done. I'm not predicting that, but that's how I could see but that's like, to me, that's the way you win the game. And maybe the only way you win this game. I don't think you can win. I don't think 17-16 is possible. I just don't see Aaron Rodgers not scoring 24, 27. Like, am I wrong, Chud, or am I right?
Well, no, you're 100% right. Okay. But the way the NFL has been this year, if the Browns do win the game, maybe it's just something crazy happens to where they win like a score by, I don't know. No, there's no way you would predict it. There's no way I can see it happening. But I guess in the way this NFL season's been, but I feel like the Packers have kind of been immune to the craziness of this NFL season. They just seem to be rolling on all cylinders, right? I mean, what they had.
I mean, they lost the opener. Yeah, I mean, they played terrible in the opener and lost to the Saints, and then they've been really good since. I think one of their other 2 losses when Rodgers was out with COVID.
Yeah, 11-3. Yeah. They're 11-3. So, yeah, you're right, boy. All right, you ready to get to predictions?
Yep.
And I think I saw the Browns have only won there one time, right? They've only won in Lambeau one time. Is that right? Since
I don't. You know what? I've not even gone through the release yet, Chud. That's insane. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Stefanski told people, he said, "I recommend going. It's cool. It's not like. I mean, it's cool to go to a game there. I've covered a couple of games there. I remember my first time there. I think it might have even been a preseason game. But walking to the stadium, it's like walking down Pearl Road, and then all of a sudden Lambeau Field pops up. Like it's crazy. It's like just like in this little town, you're like it's this 4-lane street, and then boom, there's houses, and then Lambeau Field. Like really, like across the street and behind the parking lot are houses. It's a cool setting for sure.
That's all. It's almost similar to Wrigley in
right.
that essence. Yeah. Right. I've never been to Lambeau. That'd be awesome. Oh man, Christmas Day. I mean, it's going to be fun. There's no doubt about it. The environment's going to be great. It's a shame that basically, I know you mentioned earlier maybe they could sneak in and win the division if they, don't win out. But losing last week really puts you in a situation here where you feel like they got to win these last 3 games because we've been saying that all along. When they had 5 to go, we said they needed to go 4-1. When they had 4 to go, we're like they need to go 3-1. Now it's now with 3 left, it's like you feel like they got to go 3-0. So
yeah, you do. You do. You feel like they need. I kind of felt like when the COVID was happening last week that they needed a split versus the Raiders and Packers, right? And it would have been way easier to beat the Raiders, as it turns out. I think than the Packers. Now, if you lose this game, I don't think you're mathematically eliminated. but you would need stuff to go right. Like you need the Bengals to beat the Ravens this week. Because if the Ravens win, all of a sudden they get to 9 wins, and I think they have a game left with Pittsburgh. Like then it's complete. Then all of a sudden you need way more help. Like, just looking at the scenarios, the Browns need Cincinnati to win, and they need Pittsburgh to lose in Kansas City for their best chances of winning the division either way, but especially if they were to lose to Green Bay, like to give themselves a chance. That's what they need to happen.
All right, prediction time. Last week, overall, Browns are 7-7. You are 8-6. I am 9-5. So 1 game difference between you and I. And really, I'm not going to apologize for what we predicted last week, Scott. I believe in what we went with. We both went with the Browns. I just feel like we're so dead on with how we felt about it that they would somehow come up with a way to get the win with adversity. And you know what? I'm proud of them for the way they played. Sure, yeah, 1 play here or there, missed field goal, a 3rd and 3. But the bottom line is they did what I thought they were going to do. They just didn't win the game. So I'm not going to apologize for that prediction. There's definitely other ones this year where I'm like, oh, I didn't see that coming. That game's kind of how I figured it would go. It's just the Browns didn't end up, 1 point ahead, or it just. Do you agree? Don't you feel like they can't? I'm not apologizing for that prediction.
No, I'm with you, Chud. I'm glad you said that. I picked 17-16, right? So that I got the Raiders part right, and obviously they wouldn't have kicked the field goal. If McLaughlin had made the field goal earlier, it's not like the game would have ended 17-16. The Raiders would have needed to score a touchdown, but it's right there. Like the score is right there. They're 1 play away from winning, which we've talked about. I've said 100 times already. But I was talking to one of my buddies. I'm going to give him a name drop, Nate Ulrich, who's a dedicated listener to this podcast, by the way, from the Akron Beacon Journal.
Oh, hey, Nate. What's up, man?
He just didn't think the Browns could win, given all the guys out. Like, he just thought, hey, they just don't have enough guys. And at halftime, he said he felt vindicated. Like, yeah, look. And then by the end of the game, it was, yes, the Browns found a way. Now the Raiders helped, but the Browns found a way to be in it like you and I thought they would. So I did take some comfort in that, thinking, yes, despite all the guys out, I did think the Browns would be in the game, and it wound up turning out that way. So we were right about that. We just didn't quite get the winner correct.
Yeah, but and you even said it. The Raiders were part of that. Well, that was part of the thinking.
Correct.
Was
yes,
if they were playing Tom Brady or Rodgers, we would have never given them that shot. But it was the fact that it was the Raiders.
Yes.
You're like, and it almost happened, but it didn't. And it's an L. We take the L, but I'm not going to apologize for it. So I'll go first. I think you went first last weekend. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this simply for the fact that, and I'm not a huge fan of the schedule game before the season starts because so much changes, but I do play it. And we all do it because it's, fun to do, and we do it. But never once this year have I ever considered the Browns winning this game. Not at the beginning of the year, not in week 2, not in week 7. Like, never once would have I ever imagined a scenario where they win this game. And I'm going to stick with that. I just, on the road, Aaron Rodgers is just going to, with knowing the entire country's watching him on Christmas Day, it's kind of that Michael Jordan, LeBron James, like, those stellar athletes, Tom Brady. I can name, Tiger Woods. This is the type of guy that with everyone watching him, he's not going to let the Browns come in and beat him. I just don't see any scenario. The Browns are too beat up. COVID injuries. While I think that they will play tough and it's not going to be like 42-7, I'm going to give the Browns credit that I think it's going to be an entertaining game. I do. So I'm not going to say that it's going to be a blowout, but I'm going to go, you mentioned the number 30. I think the Packers get into the 30s. They've been averaging around 32 points their last 5 games. I'm going to go 31-21 Packers. They find a way to cover that 7.5 spread. And I'm going to give the Browns 21 because I don't see them lining up for many field goals. In order to try to win this game, you're going to have to score touchdowns. And I think the Packers just get one more touchdown and a field goal more. So I'm going to go Packers 31, Browns 21.
Yeah, I think all that's solid reasoning. I really do, Chud. There's no way I can pick them to win. There's just for all the reasons you mentioned. Aaron Rodgers would be the number one reason. Even if the Browns were completely healthy, he'd be the reason I'd pick the Packers. I do think the Browns are going to fight. I think, they showed resilience last week. I think they'll continue to show that. So I don't think it's going to be a blowout. Not that it couldn't get out of hand, but I don't think it is going to get out of hand. I'm going to go Packers 27, Browns 24.
Wow.
Yeah. I feel like it's going to be closer than we think. Maybe Browns figure out a way to score some points. Maybe there's a boost getting Baker back. I could easily see it getting to 30. I could see it. 31-21 is not like that's a good number. I had that number in my head too at some point, but I settled on 27-24 for whatever reason, and that's what I'm going to stick with. So, who knows? I could be way off, but I do think it's going to be I do think it's going to be closer than some people think. And with that in my head, I'm going to go 27-24.
That's cool. I could see that scenario for sure. I just think Devontae Adams is going to have a field day on him, don't you think?
Yeah, I think that's Denzel Ward. You got two choices: either double team him like the Ravens did, and they triple team him sometimes, or you say Denzel Ward try to stop him in, as well as Denzel Ward's playing, and he's going to the Pro Bowl this year. You got to like Devontae Adams in that matchup, right? He's just too good. So, yeah, they're going to be out. I'm blanking on his name. The hyphenated guy, the AMZ. Why am I not coming up with his name?
Oh, Valdez Scantling.
Yes, thank you. He's on the COVID list, so they may be without him. But when you have Adams, and it's not just the throwing, they can run it on you too. So it's just a complete offense. And like I said, they're going to move the ball up and down the field. You just got to hope that you get them in third and long, because a couple third and longs in the games that I watched, they struggle. Everybody struggles to convert them, but so do the Packers, right? So if you can get them in third and long with a sack or a penalty, that gives you a chance to get off the field. If it happens in the red zone, you get them to kick a field goal. Like, those are the kind of things that the Browns need to hang around. And I also believe in, and we've talked about this before, Chud, it's tough to play at a high level all the time. So maybe this is a game where the Packers come down to earth a little bit, right? It's a little shorter. It's a shorter week for the Browns, but it's also a shorter week for the Packers. They clinched the North, right? Like, maybe there's a little letdown, and that gives the Browns a chance to hang around and make it a game, right? Like, I think all those, I use all those as factors when I came up with the closer score than you had. You know what I mean? Like, I can kind of see that going there, but yeah, I don't see how you stop Aaron Rodgers. I don't see how you stop Devontae Adams. I'm not sure how you score a ton of points. Like, there's a lot of things up against the Browns, but number one and number two are Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams.
Did you say you were going? I can't remember.
I'm not going.
You're not. Okay. All right. So you'll be watching it back here with the rest of us here in Cleveland on Christmas Day. Scott, Merry Christmas, man. Hopefully, the Browns unwrap that victory, and we're talking about it next week, and we're just going to say, hey, we were both wrong, and we're happy as can be.
Well, yeah, that'd give us a lot to talk about over the last 2 weeks. All of a sudden, that Monday night game against Pittsburgh would it's going to be big regardless, right? Could be Ben's last game at Heinz Field, all that. But playoffs on the line, that's the hope. Even if they lose, the hope is that for Browns fans is that the last two games have meaning, right? And that there's still a chance that they can salvage the season. So we'll know a lot better after this weekend as far as, where they stand in the playoff chase. But if they win at Green Bay, we know that they have a chance. And we know that the title hopes are still alive. So, Chud, thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it. We'll do this again next week, the last one of 2021. Thanks, everybody, for listening to another edition of the Zone Coverage Podcast. And you can read all my work at brownzone.com, sponsored by Fligners. Thanks, everybody.